Hi everyone, let's do the 0x1a application server project. Now in this project, we are basically required to take our web server projects, the web dynamic and the web static files from the Airbnb clone v2, v3 and v4 and host them on our servers. Now in this project, we'll be needing tools like the net tools, we'll be needing to install Python 3 pip, we'll need to install nginx also, and then all of those work together to make the project work. So now the first thing I need to do is connect to my web01 server. Let's go ahead and do that. So let me create you can use any sandbox you use to log into your servers by default. I use my local terminal, so I'll be using the same thing here. So SSH ubuntu at and then the IP address. So now I'll be connected to my web01 server in just a moment. Now I'm into my web01 server, so we can go ahead to the next steps. Now according to these requirements, if this SSH project is not done, so like we need to enable ALX access to our servers so that they can check if what we are doing is actually correct. So now you should have done this before, but just in case you missed it out, just go ahead and confirm this here. You need to use this checker and see if it works. If it does not work, then you have to follow the next step, but if it works fine, you can just skip this. So you need to copy this SSH and then paste it in your server. So let's say the echo command, paste this double angle brackets and then .ssh authorized keys. Now that that is done, you can close this. So let's close this and go back. Now all my checks are currently red, so we can be sure. So now the first thing we need to do is, according to this requirement, we have to install NetTools on our web01 server. So after installing NetTools, we need to clone our Airbnb clone v2 repository onto the server. Then we have to configure a file to match the requirements of this to serve the content from Airbnb one page. So let's skip that and go to the next task just to see how everything works before we go on to the basic working on the server stuff. So let's see, in this case we have to install nginx and some other libraries that are required by our application. So we are using Flask for the Airbnb clone project, so we have to install Flask using pip. We have to install like Flask CORS and SQL Alchemy because they are required for the project to work. So now we have to continue this now after installing Flask and all of the stuff. So let's go to the next one. Now in this one we have to update our nginx configuration, because we need nginx to be listening on this route and redirecting the request to the 5000 port on the local host. So we are going to be using reverse proxy in this case. So let's go to the next one and see what it entails. Now in this one we have to also update our nginx configuration, and for each of the updates to nginx configuration we have to paste the config file inside of your repository for the required names. So 3 app server nginx config for this one. So let's go ahead and see what the task says. Nginx must serve this page on the public IP and also locally on port 80. Now nginx should proxy request from this route to the port 5001, right? So we'll go ahead and update that in the configuration also. So now the next one, task 4, this one requires that we use the Airbnb clone v3 RESTful API. So we have to clone the repository also. We have to set up the a new route on nginx, also API routes that would reverse proxy to the port 5002. Now nginx must serve, all of these are just like the same across all of the tasks. So now we can test this using the API v1 app.py stuff. So let's skip this also and see the next one. Now for the fifth one, which is the last mandatory task, I will not be doing any of the advanced tasks here. So for the last mandatory task, task 5, you can see here we have to clone the Airbnb clone v4. Use nginx to host a specific file, right? Now all of these files that they ask us to host, we have to update them in a way to match the requirements here. So I took the liberty of creating a new branch in my repository, which is the app server branch that has the updated files to match this project. So we'll see how we work with that in a moment. So now we have to set up nginx and then reverse proxy also to port 5003. So now we are seeing we have 3 reverse proxies: port 5002, 5001, and then 3. Okay, so that's the final mandatory task. The next one is advanced, so I'll be skipping that. Now I took the liberty of writing a script that takes in all of these requirements and then runs them all at once. So we want to run a single script that would achieve solving all of these tasks and getting green checkers. So that's quite fun. Let's go ahead and check what the script does actually, and then run it in our server. Now we have the application server, which is the folder for this project, and then the file is the app server file. So this is the script that does the magic script that does everything. So now the first thing we do is update the system. Sudo apt-get updates, install nginx. That's if it's not installed before, but if it's installed before, it's just run like nginx is installed already and skip that. So now the next thing we have to do is install pip, because we're going to be using like our Python files. And remember the project Airbnb clone v2 project, we use the Python flask module. Let me just go ahead and open the repository Airbnb clone v2. So now in this repo we used flask. So we are supposed to host this file, right? Web flask and then the 0 Now by default we are using the default routes / here. But now since they told us to like update the file, I created a new branch that we're going to use for this. So this is the branch and this is the required route for this file for the first task, right? So let's go ahead and continue with the script and see what's actually going where in the script. So now the next thing we did is install nginx. We install Python 3 pip so that you can use pip to install the flask and the flask cors stuff. So now after that we install pip install flask cors and then the SQL alchemy. Then also according to the requirements that is on this page, we have to install nettools. So I installed nettools also using this same command in the script. So sudo apt-get install nettools right here. Then we also have to install gunicon, right, for the next requirements. Gunicon is installed using this command. Now also we have to remove like all of the Airbnb clone like repositories that we have currently on our server, because you know I said I use my repository to create a new branch to match the requirements, right? So that's why we have to remove all of the current Airbnb clone v1 or v2 or v3 or v4 that is currently on your server and delete everything. So that's why I use the wildcard. So Airbnb clone v and then the star. So this captures any Airbnb clone v1 or v2 or v3 or v4 that is on your server and deletes it. So just like a mild warning before you go and run the script. So it deletes all of the repositories you have on Airbnb clone, like the v2, v3, and v4 will be deleted. Then I'll go ahead and clone all of my repositories, v2, v3, and v4. Then we have to like check out and all of those stuff. So we'll get to that in a minute. Now after we clone the repositories, we run the cd command to change directory into the Airbnb clone v2 now that it's existing on our servers. Now we use the checkout to change the branch to this branch, right, the one that I just opened here, to the app server branch that has the updates that work for the application server project. So now after that, the checkout app server, we now have the nginx configuration, right? This is like the updated one for all of the tasks. In the task we are required to use the /static to host the static files and then link it to the web dynamic static files for the Airbnb clone v4. So that's the block for that. We have the default route for task 4 also. That this is reverse proxy to port 5003. Then we also have the reverse proxy to port 5000 for the Airbnb one page. We have this one that also works for the port 5001 also. So we have the 5002 reverse proxy for each of the requirements have their own like blocks here. So now this had us the default ones that we had before. So now we can just skip this and go to the next one. So now after like updating the nginx configuration, we have to restart nginx, and then we just put the echo command to just state that nginx has been updated. Now the next thing we did is to cd into the Airbnb clone v3 project, the repository, and now we run this command. So this command basically takes in the gunicon and binds it using tmux, so like runs in the background. So the gunicon is like running your Python main.py or whatever, but now it's running it using like a worker, so you can keep track of things. Then you can run it in the background using tmux. So now this one runs the the required file in the background, so we don't have to continue seeing it while it's running. So then also we run the cd ABM clone v4 and then git checkout, so we can change the files to the updated ones that match the requirements for this project. So now let me go ahead and run this script and see what happens. So let me go ahead and copy the script. Okay. Now after copying the script, I'll just go back to my server. I'm currently logged into my server, so I'll just create a new file. Let's say app server. So nano app server. You can use any editor you want, like Vim or Emacs. So I prefer nano. Now let's paste the script and then save it. So you save on nano is Control X. Now you see it's asking save modified buffer, so I'll press the Y button and then enter to save it on the same file. So just enter, and now it's saved. So now I need to make this executable using the chmod command plus X and then the name of the file, which is app server. Now I need to run the script using a ./app server. Now this will take a while to work because it's installing a lot of softwares and then updating the nginx configuration. So we just need to wait for this to run out. So now while we are waiting for that, let's see. All of my checkers are currently red, so when we are done, we'll see if it works or not. So all of this. Now let's go ahead and check the changes I made to the Airbnb clone v 2 and 3 tasks. So let me go ahead and check this out. So v4, yeah. So for the v4 also I have the new branch for the app server. So like this carries the new updates for the files, so you can also go ahead and check it out if you want to. So while that's running, let's keep an eye on the script. So I think it just finished installing pip or nginx. Would see which one of it is. So if it's pip, then it's to begin to install all the like flask and flask CRS right after this. So let's see which one works. So now it's installing the flask and then the CRS stuff. All that's installed now. Now the SQL Alchemy is running also. So now we are installing NetTools now. So you can see there in the logs, NetTools is now installed, and Python nginx also is installed. So now it's cloning the repositories v1, the v2, v3, and v4. So all that is changed. It has also switched the branch. So now we are done. So essentially we could just go ahead and run our checkers now, because everything should be working properly. The script does everything for you. Now let's click the start a new test. This should go all green. That works. So let's go ahead and check the next ones. Like all of the tasks from task 0 to 5 should be complete right now. So let's skip and check everything all at once. Let's have a page and then the 3. The next one goes for the 4 and then the 5. Remember I didn't do the advanced task, so you would have to work that out yourselves. So the main ones are the mandatory tasks and they all will be complete. As you can see, the checkers are going all green. Task 4, task 3 is still running, I guess. It's most likely still running. I click this now. Yeah, the check is still running. So it's still running in the background, but it's not done. So now for the task 2 is also complete, all green. So now we have 3 and 5 left to worry about. 3 is also still running. Yep, still running. Now let's see about 5. 5 is also done. So now all that is left is the 3. I'm sure that would also check. We just need to wait it out. So now all that's complete. You can leave your questions or any issues you have with it. Just leave a comment and I'll respond as soon as possible. Thank you so much for watching. Please like the video and subscribe to my channel for more like this. Goodbye everyone.